Racks on racks on racks on racks. All right, let's get high. This is my latest and greatest creation. This is it. So, now I've got my first ever customer. Woo! Hello Tech Channel. Today's video is about nothing other than this server right here. And what makes this server so special is that it's not mine anymore. So, take your mind back, maybe a video ago, and you'll notice I started a free Minecraft hosting company. But I was like, there's more fruit here to be found. So, this video is all about how I got my first customer on Play Hosting, and it's all thanks to this server right here. I'm gonna be talking about how I designed it and what kind of precautions I now have in place to account for the needs of paying customers that need stuff like guaranteed uptime. So without further ado, would you like to see the server room upgrades? To the server room, to the server room, to the server room! A lot has changed since you guys have last seen this room. First of all, it's overflowing. I wish I was kidding. The rack is now as full as I'm gonna make it because it's being propped up by wood, and it is totally and utterly full. So we've got some overflow servers on the side here, but I got a second rack. Look at this rack. Racks on racks on racks on racks. It's glorious. The server room grows. So, I got this entire second rack as a steal on eBay. I got this rack for £62. This is a 42U rack for £60 on eBay auction. I sniped it. So, shall I go on to the upgrades to the network to accommodate paying customers? Listen, you have to promise like a certain amount of reliability. First of all, loads of people made comments in the last video about the networking setup, and I read every single comment. So, now we have dual redundant networking. You can see up here, we have our brand new fiber terminations. I might need a ladder actually to show you that. Come here. Boom, shakalaka. All right, let's get high. Up here, you can see we have this new fiber ONT, which is coming in here. Oh God, it's about to get nerd specific. So, we are now renting a dedicated lease line, which is different from our old symmetric fiber line. Both is a cable, but one cable goes to an ISP edge location where the rented lease line goes to an exchange, to my knowledge. So we were just renting symmetric gigabit, but now with the lease line comes with 12 fiber terminations, and each termination, to my knowledge, is able to do 10 gigabits. So we have the capacity to do 120 gigabit. However, that is expensive, and I will not be paying thousands per month for internet. So for the time being, I'm using one of those 12 fiber terminations for about 2 gigabit. You were like, oh my gosh, he's finally listened. He understands that game servers need more bandwidth. Look, you all make a very reasonable point, but I'm not made of money, man. This is a startup project. And if you look down here, come here. The 12 fiber terminations from the lease line, you can see they all come in here, and this is the one we're using. And then all of this goes out to the street and out to the exchange. Voila, voila, voila. I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of scared of fiber. This is my first kind of diving into the fiber ecosystem. This is the fiber switch. This goes into a ONT, which is capable of doing 10 gigabit rather than 2.5 gigabit. And then this copper DAC is coming down and is connecting now to the UDM Pro Max, going into port 11. And then we have our second WAN, which is our primary, which we're using right now. Because the swap over isn't quite ready yet, we are using this gigabit WAN here. Awesome! So that's the networking upgrades. Wait, stop! There's more network upgrades I forgot to tell you about. Okay, look at this beauty. This here is gonna be our new core router. This is the Astrista 7050S64. This can run as a router and a switch. It has 4 40 gigabit ports on here, as well as console serial out and management. And then it has 48 SFP plus gigabit ports. Oh, it's gonna be beautiful. So the only reason it's not installed right now, it didn't come with a mounting kit. I assumed it would have come with a mounting kit. It did not. Now, the next improvement. Everyone was coming for my throat in the last server room tour video about redundant power, data integrity, and all of that shebang. Let me show you what I'm rocking. This here is the new UPS. This is an APC something or other, and then this is like their external battery pack. So you can see here, its output mode is set to off right now because it's not outputting any electricity. But this is actually 3 different battery models. So this here is just 2 battery models. I'm not going to touch it because electricity scares me. And then this down here is the 3rd. So this is 3 battery models, all for powering the server. Cool, 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 right? If you want to know what kind of ports it has on the back here, I believe this is a C13 socket for power in. This is like some weird proprietary connector that I don't quite understand, I must admit. And then you have a bunch of just your standard kettle leads out and another massive C socket, whatever the fuck it's called. And you've got your serial connection on the back there. UPS! Pretty awesome. Now, should I go on to the box itself? Back to the quiet room, away from the loud server room. So, on to the actual computer itself that I built. So for those of you that don't know, when I say I got my first customer, this is me talking about someone that has rented one of these machines that I have built to run their own Minecraft network. So the servers that I provide on Play Hosting are tailored for like your individual group of friends that maybe want to play survival Minecraft or a really small mod pack, or maybe some plugins. However, in the Minecraft space, we have these Goliath networks which have hundreds to thousands of players connected, and they need something a little bit more powerful than a Play Hosting server. This is when this server comes in. This is my latest and greatest creation. This one I've got in front of me here is kind of an example box because obviously I don't have more parts than I need, so I got all my spares and put them into here to make like an example for something that I do sell, but this is it. So, this is what I call like the shell of the build. Every single server that is like rented needs like these main things. It needs the CPU, motherboard, power supply, and it needs a boot drive. And now, you might notice there's no RAM, because how Minecraft servers work, they're pretty much rented dependent on how much RAM they need, because it can really vary from customer to customer. So, build the system like a shell, and then whoever's looking for dedicated hardware like this, and I'll be like, hey, what are your hardware needs? And then if they want to host the server with us, I will then go and order the RAM and the storage they need. So to put it into perspective, this system here is using the Gigabyte B650M-K motherboard, which I settled on because of the 2.5 gigabit networking and the 2 parallel M.2 slots, which can be used for a RAID 0 NVMe array, if that makes sense. So you can have your redundant drive in there. The CPU in this exact build here is the Ryzen 9 7950X. I firmly believe it's the best CPU for Minecraft right now. Maybe second to the 9950X, but it really depends on your needs. So to put it into example, let me give you a rundown on how much everything in this box roughly costs, and then I'm going to explain how much I typically charge per month for a unit like this. All of this, by the way, is going to be including VAT. This power supply is actually a power supply I bought in South Korea when I flew there for VCT championships. I went to the Yongsan electronics market and I got 5 of these power supplies for around £5 each. So I put that in there for a placeholder, rest assured. On actual stuff, I don't cheap out on the power supply. Not that you'd ever be able to know. No, I'm messing. So, price rundown for the box. For the CPU, £290, and for the Diatron cooler, this is around £44, and the motherboard is around £110. That's the Gigabyte B650M-K. The power supply, like I said, this is a placeholder. I normally use a Corsair 80 plus gold power supply, 500 watt 80 plus gold, which is around anywhere from 40 to 50 pounds. The reason I like the Corsair power supplies is because they're modular, and the only power connectors I use for the systems is your 8-pin CPU and your 24 main power. Moving on to the case, this is an iWin 2U server chassis case. This case costs around £130. I've been buying them from Scan. So this is about £130, and then there's an additional £15 for shipping because they come in massive boxes. The reason I picked this case is because of the front I/O. It has 2 USB 3.0 ports. It has your power, your reset, and this is the thing I really like about this case. It has indicator lights on the front for your storage, your power, and here's the interesting thing, your network 1 and your network 2. So if you were to run in this PCIe slot here, there's a 16x PCIe slot on this motherboard, typically used for a graphics card because it's a consumer motherboard. However, for my use case, I would use something like this for a low-rise network card, either a dual 10 gigabit SFP plus port, or if I'm using this for more intensive operations, maybe a 40 gigabit port. For storage, I do typically use the Crucial 1 terabyte NVMe drive. I just think you can't go wrong with a Crucial drive. Like, they just work so well. The RAM. This system is designed to run a DDR5 RAM at, I believe, 5,600 mega transfers per second. You might know, if any of you have ever looked at the online docs for the 7950X CPU, you might notice that on the doc sheet, it says the CPU can take a maximum of 128 gigabytes of RAM, which wouldn't work for my application because I have multiple systems running 192 gigabytes of RAM. But you might be wondering, Toby, if this CPU can only max 128 gigabytes of RAM, how are you running 192 gigabytes of RAM? Truth be told, the AMD specification data sheet totally lies. It is all down to the motherboard chipset. If the motherboard has the B650 chipset, this CPU can go up to 256 gigabytes of RAM, no problem. So, all in all, this system, minus RAM and storage, costs around £500 for all of this setup. Maybe a little bit less. And now, let me bring you on to how much I rent the systems for. I broke it down into 3 main price points. Don't get me wrong, I love making these dedicated systems and servers for big clients, but play hosting is for people rather than customers of industry. But I might change that in the future. To rent a system like this with this CPU for 64 gigabytes of RAM, I'm typically charging £100 a month. And then for 128, I'm doing £150 a month. And then 192, I'm doing £200 a month. Because the main contributing factor for the cost of this system is the RAM. The RAM is by far the most expensive component, other than the CPU, but you can buy the CPUs in bulk. The RAM is a little bit harder. I'm finding it harder to buy the RAM in bulk, to say the least. I'm finding it harder to find somewhere to buy the RAM in bulk. They do bulk for like hundreds of DIMMs. I'm like, I need to buy like maybe like 20 DIMMs. The reason I charge £100 a month, let's pretend like this is a system that has 64 gigabytes of RAM. First of all, if this CPU is running at full load on my current energy bill, that's gonna use anywhere from 22 to 30 pounds of energy per month. That's where some of that £100 a month fee comes from. Next, we need to talk about networking and network infrastructure. To connect a server to the network, it's gonna use bandwidth. And the more bandwidth we get, the more expensive it becomes. Right now, we're paying around £350 a month for the networking. A percentage of that bill is made up for by the rent of this box. And then finally, it's to pay off the actual hardware itself. The reason I came to the number £500 a month, as I mentioned earlier, this whole configuration cost me around £500. And my rule of thumb is, I want the system to be able to pay itself off within a 5-month window. Because I think for someone to rent dedicated hardware for 5 months is around average. From what I've seen, dedicated hardware is typically rented in around 5 to 6 months. Like, people don't often have it for longer than half a year. So my plan was I wanted the box to be able to pay itself off in 5 months. And then, after inevitably it's cancelled because it won't be in service forever, this is then a box that can then be, now it's completely paid off, can go and join the play hosting pool of active servers and can then provide more powerful servers using this high quality CPU for free customers on play host. This kind of hardware, normally you would rent from a seller like OVH, Hertzner, GSL, Phoenix Snap, load of names come to mind. What makes the servers we build a little bit different is these servers are purely designed for the Minecraft application. So the kind of people that we look to give these systems to is like network owners. Like right now, we have one PvP practice server hosting with us called MC Prac. MC Prac was actually our first ever customer, which was freaking awesome. I know I slightly lied in the title. We have 2 now. We have a second customer joining called Echo Network, which is SMP server and a kit server. But yeah, basically that is it. That is what I've changed. Now I've got my first ever customer. Woo! Does it sound like I know what I'm talking about? Am I saying all the nerd phrases right? Do you like the nerd phrasing or not really? Don't answer that. But let me tell you about something you will like. Brilliant. The sponsor of today's video. That's right, baby. We got a sponsor. Sound the alarm! We got a sponsor! So, I make a lot of videos which are considered maybe technically more educational than laughs and just having fun with your friends on Minecraft. And I get a load of comments asking, Toby, where did you learn all of this stuff? Truth be told, I am self-taught. However, I wish I knew about Brilliant before I started trying to teach myself all this stuff. Brilliant has so many libraries of courses from learning how to program, from how AI works, from logic gates, and learning how more technical stuff works maybe on the circuit board level. So Brilliant reached out to me via email and asked me to sponsor some tech channel videos, and I was like, oh my god, this is literally a perfect fit. And I've been using Brilliant at the minute because they gave me a license to see if it's something I really vibe with. And I love it so much. I'm more of a hardware guy myself. However, I've been trying to teach myself how to code. And Brilliant has such awesome computer science courses. They just feel like they're professionally made because you're never gonna guess they are. It's not like watching a YouTube video tutorial. I've been doing the course on Python at the minute under computer science, and it works so damn well. And if you want to try out Brilliant for yourself, I actually have a special offer for you. You can get a 30-day free trial and 20% off an annual premium subscription for anyone that uses my link. Thank you again, Brilliant, for sponsoring the video. So, that's about all I have for you today, Tech Channel. Thank you so much for watching this video. So if you did enjoy this video, please whack down a like on the video so I know to make more of this stuff. And if you have any questions, comment, and always subscribe to Tubputers Nation. I'm trying to upload more regularly. Later!